Good morning. This is Matt Sexton with the Florida Department of Transportation's CAD office. Welcome to Traffic Plans Tools for Civil 3D, part of the FDOT CAD office's ongoing series of webinars on hot CAD topics. Your presenter today is Randy Roberts. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to enter them in the Q&A dialogue. We will be doing our best to answer these questions in real time or take some time at the end of the webinar to address any unanswered questions. These questions and answers will be compiled into a Q&A document that will be posted on our website. If you experience any audio issues during the webinar, the best way to resolve them is to log out of the webinar and then log back in, as we're not able to control the audio issues that you might experience. And now I'll turn things over to Randy.
Thank you, Matt. Can you see my screen, first off?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Welcome to today's webinar on Civil 3D and traffic plans. Most of you know I support the ORD versions of the traffic tools. So if you're familiar with using ORD, you get to see how it works in Civil 3D. So we just released our latest MR last week, 2 weeks ago, maybe. So that contains the 2024 Civil 3D State Kit, the latest, and the ORD 1012. And our next release is scheduled for next July. So our 2025 State Kit will be coming out in July. As you know, Autodesk releases their latest version in April. So this session will revolve around how EMX, which is Entity Manager, is used in conjunction with the traffic tools. So a lot of this is the same as ORD. You can see on the ribbon we have our signs, our light pole manager, multi-line pavement markings, and place block group. But the advantage of this platform is using Entity Manager, which is you're familiar working with the PayItemDB file, which is the database file in ORD, but EMX is like a graphical interface of that same database where we can draw and place items, and I'll go through that as we move along in this program. So first thing I want to go over is the sign tool. It's on the FDOT ribbon. So let me get to the assembly creation tab. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over this because you have, there's been enough training and manuals printed to go through the basics. So what I'm going to do is show you what's basically new in the latest delivery we just sent out. So I'm going to create a new assembly, and the assembly comes up pre-populated. You can give it a name. For now, I'm just going to leave it as a default. With a center justification, I want to do a panel in post. So confirm assembly settings, comes up to the panel. Part of it's already pre-filled out for you, conventional and regulatory. We just need to make a panel selection. So I'm going to do, whoops. Let's do the old trusty 4-way. So on size, again, you can type in manually the size if it's a custom or oversized sign. If not, we do have preset sizes to choose from. This is from MUTCD sizes. So that's where these sizes come from, in case you're curious. I'm going to do proposed, and we'll hit add first panel. Now from here, of course, you could go in and add a second panel or third or fourth or fifth, how many panels you need for your sign assembly. For this, I'm not going to add any additional panels, so I'm going to hit confirm assembly. It's going to take me to the post options. So this is already filled out 100%, unless you wanted to make a change, such as this was a two-sided, or you wanted a double post. Currently, it's a single post. One thing I want to point out is the signs XML file did get an overhaul, and all the old sign pay item numbers were removed, and the new ones are in place. You can tell the new ones because they took the spaces out between here. I think it was 0700, 1 space 12. Now it's 1111 for the bottom of the barrel. So meaning up to 12 square feet. So another thing that the basis of estimates changed in the description is they eliminated the loophole where you had an option of up to 12 square feet and 12 square feet to 20. So now, because technically you could have had two pay item numbers at 12 square foot. So now it goes less than 12.0, and then the next step up is 12.1 to 20.0. So in other words, it's the decimal places have been added in to keep better track of the size. Okay, so one important thing when you're working in the sign tool in Civil 3D, similar to ORD, where if you're going to add additional pay item numbers to your post, you need to do it upon assembly creation. You can't do it after you've placed them because the program wasn't originally written to do that. So I know we can do that, and using ORD as an example, with the sign tool, you can, or the signal tool, you can go in and edit after items are already placed. So some of the functionality that has been added to the newer written tools will be making it back into the older written tools, such as the sign tool, where you can do that. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to add an additional pay item number here, just right click on the post additional pay items, append, and so I'm going to, initially, this will ask you for that pay item DB file, which at this point should be named your project. Your database file should be named after your project FPID number. Okay, so I'm going to do retro reflective, select OK, comes up here with the pay item number, description, and as soon as I hit OK, it's going to populate in a list down here. I do want to point out that you can also manually enter in the pay item number and description. So if you had something custom that is missing, technically, you could add it in here. And this could be, well, you can type it in. All right, so I'm going to hit OK. And you see the list populates here. And from here, I'm ready. So I'm going to hit confirm post. And I'm here at the placement portion. So we have option on the alignment. You have a blank space, and you have the actual alignment name here. So this blank space allows you to place a sign assembly that's not attached to an alignment. Due to the fact you will need to do that, I know I was made aware of projects where you don't have an alignment present for side roads and whatnot. Anyway, so that option's been added. But in this example, I'm going to use State Route 61, place panel. One new thing here that this really is helpful in ORD. Don't really need it in Civil 3D much, but it's the feedback here. You see how I'm moving the sign panel around. You have a station and you have an offset feedback. So you can get your your station and offset. Left is negative, of course. Right is positive, so you can get that in there. So I'm going to place the panel. Post comes up the same way. Now let's say that you wanted to place this post at exactly station 6+00 and offset of 50 feet. How would you do that in Civil 3D? Well, you come over here, we have transparent commands. Transparent commands are a command within a command. So with, I'm still in placement mode with the sign tool, so I'm gonna go select station offset. Pay attention to your command lines, always feeding you instructions back. So it's asking to select the alignment. So I'm gonna left click, and for station, just type in 6+00, hit tab. Don't hit tab. Hang on a second. Whoops. We'd start that again. All right, there we go. It's locked in on station 6. And for offset, just type in -50. Places it at the station offset. So if you're not too familiar with transparent commands, there's a whole list of them here. They work with profiles, cross sections, plan view, or in this case, off the alignment station offset. After we have placed it, you need to hit finish assembly before you move on to the labels. And before I place labels, let me point this out to you. When you first install the stake kit and before you use the sign tool, make sure you go to the user settings tab and hit load default settings. So what that's going to do is make all the default selections for you. So notice the layer was at 0, and now when I ran load default settings, it loads the correct layer name up. It also selects what to label. So I'm going to hit place panel and then place post label. It's a little particular. So you may have to zoom in to select that post. I've noticed that if you don't select it, even if you select where the straight line is across that circle, it doesn't recognize it as a post. So you may have to zoom in. But point being is another new a fix that's been added is you notice there's shapes now on both pay item numbers, same in ORD. So that's been fixed and added. And I have a list here, so I want to make sure I cover everything for you. Okay. So one unknown feature that you may not recognize or know that exists with the sign tool. So let's close the sign tool dialog itself. Hit escape to get out of the label. So if I select the post and right click, we have some right click functionality, the sign tool. So under FDOT signs, I can open up a label. Notice I didn't have to open up the sign dialog box, it's automatic. You can also edit. It opens up the dialog box to edit this. It's already selected. Here it is, what we already placed. So now you could say you wanted to add an extra panel or two, and you can do that now. Don't have to start from scratch creating an assembly. And any assembly that you create, as a reminder, you can save as an XML file to be later recalled to use in your other projects. All right, so say we wanted to move this post. So I'm going to window it, right click. I want to do just basic move, right? So when I move the post itself, see the station updates the label, so you don't have to worry about relabeling it. You can also copy this assembly and it will give it a new name and put the label at the correct station. And let's say you wanted multiple of these same assemblies, you can copy them and it will retain all the X data, which is what Civil 3D uses as pay item data. Okay. You can also get to, I think there's another way to get to the quick bar. Yeah. So under tools and settings, you can switch to the quick bar. Now you have a reduced size of the sign tool that you can do some functionality with it. Pretty much after it's been placed, you can do extra labeling. You can add connectors, additional connectors between your posts and panels. But I believe that's all I want to cover on the sign tool as far as what's new. I just want to reiterate one more time. When you first load it and install it and run it, please hit load default settings. What happened was when I initially installed it, you'll notice sometimes the pathing here points to a previous version of Civil 3D. So that just forces it to point to the latest installed version because it'll let you know it's not going to work right. So if you don't get a preview of your panels and it doesn't look right, it's not behaving correctly, just go to your user settings and make sure your pathing is correct. Okay, so let's move on to pavement markings. So I was saying at the FLUG that we were hoping to do away with the beta name of the new pavement marking and place block group. Obviously that didn't happen, so we still have our old trusty reliable versions of the pavement marking and place block group. I know that we'll be getting in the final versions of those within a month or so, and I can send you those in case you don't want to wait until July, so you can help us test and give feedback on the new tools. Anyway, just let me know that if you want that, and I can arrange that when they're tested and solid and ready to go. Okay. So pavement marking is pretty simple. It's not, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Actually, I'm not going to draw anything because you already know how to do this, right? There is a history list here. If you have used this tool before, it will populate with the 10 the 10 last used patterns for your file will be here. You can just make the selection. If it's blank, like I have here, you can select inside, opens up the pay item database. Hit collapse all. You can go and browse to your striping that you want to put in your file. hit OK. You don't get a preview of it, but you do get the name populated in this list. You have an option here, enable outside. What that does is makes this active. Do the same thing, make your selections. That would be, double yellow or passing, solid, and a stripe skip. That's how you would handle that. The other versions, the beta versions, obviously, if you're used to using ORD where you can draw up to 6 patterns at once, that's basically the the functionality of the Civil 3D tool, the new one that will be coming soon. All right, so we have the same options. We have separation and diverge, merge. You will need to, let me untoggle that one. Select the alignment, populates here. So an advantage of this platform is you can, for the begin and end point, you can type in a station. You can do a selection from the file, gives you a jig that will is tied to that alignment. You left click or type in a station that you want the pattern to start at. So I'm going to type in 3 plus 04 76, and you can control the endpoint same way. Type it in or select. Offset's the same, 12, and then you're ready to draw. Make sure that you associate the alignment. It says for quantity takeoff. So if you do want quantities with this, make sure you have an alignment attached with this striping. Now we're not going to use the alignment. Well, we are in this case, but typically you don't have to use the alignment to offset from. You can offset from any line work, polylines, regular lines, I believe feature lines also. All right, so draw stripes, and again, pay attention to your command line, select a point. So I'm going to select this side, and there's our solid 12-inch line. Okay, so let me see, cut my line weight on. Okay, so if you're drawing all your striping, 6-inch, 12-inch, 18-inch, 24-inch, and it doesn't look, the line weight doesn't look right, it's just thin line. Make sure on your customization you have your line weight turned on, which I just did, which is right here. So what that does, it shows up along the bottom. It's right here. I'm gonna cut it on. You can see it, the line weight gets thicker. I can zoom out, zoom in. The more I zoom out, the thicker it gets, and so on. But you get the idea. So if make sure your line weight's on if you want to see the actual true weight. That's how it's going to print. All right. So I'm going to close this. And in labeling, in ORD, we have a labeling tool that goes with the striping, but in Civil 3D, it's more native. We have what's called notes. So if I go to annotate ribbon tab and go to notes and come down here, leave everything note up here, and then here is where all of the preset labels are with the contents. So I think, was that a 12-inch? Yeah, 12-inch. So I want to label this 12-inch white. Select add, pick the label location, pops in. Let's say you wanted, the arrow In Civil 3D, you have two different grips here. You have a move, you have a move label and rotate label. So move is moving the actual insertion point, and move label is just going to move the label. So what we want to do is move the label, drag it off. See the arrowhead pops up. And these are preset. If you want to edit the content of them, you can go through the style itself. If you do modify the style, keep in mind that it will update all the labels that have that style attached to it. So it's not, you're not modifying one, but that would be great, right? If you just wanted to, update all of them anyway. That's how you would do it. Okay. So you notice when I pulled that label off, got the leader line up, a lot more grips popped up. Some of them the same, move, vertex. I can add leader vertexes in case I wanted to go around an object. And then it creates yet again. So you can do some pretty neat things with the note labels. These are static, which there's nothing to update. They're not dynamic. So there's nothing to update that, right? So if I went in and changed this striping to a whole different pattern, I will have to relabel it because this is not going to update. So let me go ahead and delete that. I'll go ahead and delete the striping I just placed. I'm going to cover, everything's going to tie together when I get to EMX Entity Manager, so I'm going to circle back to the striping when I get to that point. So let me go to next, would be the FDOT multi-line. So the FDOT multi-line is a tool that you can draw your typical roadway sections in 2D, and then from that point, you could create feature lines from them, so you could target for your corridor. So there are already delivered patterns to you in the install. So you can create a new one, save one, or you can open one. In this case, I'm going to open, and I'm going to browse to the location, which is in the data, multi-line patterns. Here we have our, let's do this one. All right. So a lot happened when I open that. It has a name, that would be your layer name, pay item number. Some of these items do, such as curbs, striping that you can draw, so, and sidewalks. So the advantage here is you can add line work that already has X data on it that you can then run quantity reports on it. So this one has a lot of elements. The offset distance is measured from 0. So what that means is 0 in this case is the alignment itself. We're going to do one on each side. So this is one side of the roadway, and we're going to offset from the alignment. You do have an option to add a distance. Say you wanted, it was a median, grass median. You'd want to start that 0, 5 feet from the alignment, whatever. That's how you would, control it here. So if I wanted to go ahead and place this pattern, I'm going to, well, let me do this. This is a better example. Yes, here we have 1030 skips are in here. So I'm going to select the alignment, populates in the list. Say I had a line here that a temporary line that I'm just offsetting this from. You would hit erase existing entity, which will remove that line and replace it with these patterns. All right, so again, you can control the begin and end station, either typing it in or manually selecting from the alignment itself. Make sure you select the alignment for quantity takeoff, and that's it. Just draw multi-line, pick the side, hit draw multi-line again, draw the other side. So here we have, let me go to quick properties here. Looks good. Pay item is on it. And this goes around curves, anything. So, I mean, it's pretty neat and flexible. Let's say you wanted to build a pattern, very simple. You would do new, give it a name, hit the plus button and the subline, that's equivalent to each one of those entries. You would just give it a name. If it doesn't have a pay item number, you would just give it the layer and offset. If it is an item with a pay item number, hit the ellipsis button and browse to whatever it is you need to select in there. You can just add all you want. And then you can save it as a pattern name, and for your future projects or whatnot, you can do it that way. That's just a simple way of drawing your 2D planimetrics in your file. Now, what are we working on in our lab at work is we're going to add code set styles that contains the pay item data in it, so we can get our 3D areas from our corridor with our pavement, sidewalk, and that. And we're working through that. We got to get it working with Takeoff Manager. So this tool will, you can still use it, but get into pay item information and the corridor itself would be the goal here. So that's how you use multi-line, the multi-line tool. I do believe there's a quick clip on that also that you can go and read, or not read, you can watch the video on how it functions. Okay. Next, I'm moving to place block group. Place block group is used to place RPMs or painted pavement messages. You can do multiple messages, up to 3, and enable grouping. Grouping is, let's say you place 500 RPMs, it's going to group them all together so it's not individual. So if you select one, it selects them all. Now you can easily cut that off after it's placed. So in case you wanted to hit enable grouping here and you didn't want it grouped after it's placed, you can cut off grouping in Civil 3D, and it's flexible, goes on and off. Okay. So I'm going to be placing some light poles here. I'm going to cut off enable grouping, and I'm going to hit the red select button, opens up the pay item database. Going to collapse, go to highway lighting, light poles. I'll make that selection. And some good news, ORD, with this, there was a bug where you made your initial selection, then it would slide all the way to the bottom. That's been fixed. Problem never existed in Civil 3D, so can't explain why that bug appeared, but now it's been fixed. So the latest delivery takes care of that. It's more of a nuisance than a showstopper. Just pay attention, make sure it's the same that you select. I mean, I'm programmed now to do that, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so you have a preview, you have an offset. I think, let's try 75. For location, again, select the alignment. And again, you have the same controls with the buffer. We want an increment. Let's do 300. It's going to space it 300 feet center to center. Insertion point of the block to insertion point. Typically, we would use relative rotation, which is rotating the entity with traffic flow, depending on which side of the alignment you're going to place it on. But for light poles, we need to select perpendicular. That looks good. Everything's good there. That looks good. So we're going to hit place, pick the side that it goes on. Could have used a bigger offset, but you get the point here. So I'm going to go ahead and close it, because that's all we're going to do with place block group. One thing with place, well, let me go back. There's one thing I want to show you. You do have the option to well, you don't have the option here. It's in the new version where you can use a custom block to place. So you don't have to use the everything that's in the state kit. You can use your own block libraries and actually add in pay item number on those. That's helpful for ITS design. Okay, so next, what we're going to do is go to Entity Manager. So Entity Manager, if this is the first time you're opening it, you'll notice it says, do you want to see the details, yes or no? Always hit no, it's a little bit faster to load. So what it's actually doing is it's reading two files, an AEC merge file and a pay item database text file, and it's combining those two into a pay item DB file, which is the database. In fact, this is where the pay item database and ORD comes from. So I create it using Entity Manager and save it over to ORD for use with those tools. So a lot goes on with Entity Manager. So what we can do here, to speed you up a little bit, if you're used to use SS10, there was DNC Manager, basically the same thing. So it's just a graphical representation of the database. So we have our categories here, pay item categories. Used to seeing these. These are very familiar to you. You can type in a text filter to find an item or type in the pay item number itself. And as soon as you start typing, you can see the list starts getting smaller. And then you don't have to type in the whole number. You can just come down here and make your selection. It goes right to it. You can make a selection. For linear items, you can draw a line under the influence of that X data, a polyline, polygon, rectangle, arc, circle, ellipse, ellipse arc. You can offset. That's pretty neat because you can offset from any type of line that has nothing on it, but just it's a dumb line. It'll offset that, create the new line, and attach the X data to it. That's pretty neat. M-line, this is AutoCAD's version of multi-line. Since we have the multi-line tool, I recommend using that. And insert block. So you can do that. This is drawing tools on the bottom. Up top, we have pinned. So if you make a selection here, come up here, hit a pin, select the object you want to put it on. You can replace the pay item. So you can make your selection, hit this, it takes off the older pay item number, replaces it with a new one. Fill closed region with hatch. So this is how you would handle your island nose paint, your green bike pavement, and other generic stuff, pavement areas and whatnot. Anything that requires an area with a fill, this is how you would do it. You can strip off all X data from your objects. You can edit the pay item itself. Match properties. I really like the match properties. Let me just cut docking off here. So if I draw just a regular line here, and I do match properties, and I want it to be a 1030 skip, so I select the source, select the target, hit enter, poof, there it is. It's got the X data already on it, and you can tell because of the dump truck. That means it has data attached. So that's pretty neat. You have an ID area. You can delete a hatch area and label. You can find area by ID. So if you have your report, it has an ID handle and you want to get to that exact spot, you could use this to type it in and get to it. You have options to highlight objects with pay items, highlight objects without pay items, highlight objects with selected pay items, and clear highlight. So let's say you wanted to see items with a specific pay item number, you would select highlight objects with selected pay item numbers. It would highlight. So you would build this here and make sure when you're done, hit clear highlight because it'll just be highlighted. So how to tell when an item has a pay item number on it, this is how you would do that. It's very easy here. In the about, there is a reference guide that you can open and read. Explains Entity Manager, how it works, and it hasn't been updated in 7-8 years, and the program hasn't needed to be updated in 7-8 years. It's pretty stable as it is and does everything we need it to do. But if you want additional information, please refer to the reference guide. Okay, so if I select an item here, go to ID, pulls up all the X data that's on it. And if you want to edit this, just select the pay item number. Looks like a link right here. Opens up the attributes and ad hocs. You would do this as an example. Let's say you wanted to, it had the wrong alignment on it. You can change the association of an item. So let's say you had placed a lot of items and they didn't have an alignment on it. And I want to fix this before my boss sees this. Select striping, right click, select similar, and then you can associate the new alignment or a alignment to it. Hit apply and close. You also have the option to zoom to pay item. So if I wanted to see that, zoom to, of course it zooms in the whole screen. The whole screen is filled with that, but you can zoom to your pattern on the fly. For ad hocs, for striping, don't really mess with this. But there are instances where you would need to still deal with the ad hocs on here and add like pavement thicknesses and such as that. All right. So the database by default is stored in your C projects folder. You can double click, opens it up, gets you to the location. You can export, save, and save as. All that's going to do is that named pay item DB file is going to be sent somewhere. And you can control the categories that are listed. So if you're traffic and that's all you deal with, you can cut this down to just the traffic part categories. You can do that. That's easy. All right. So with Entity Manager, I want to show you some tricks here. So let's say that you wanted to do RPMs. Now you could go through Place Block Group and do it that way, or an easier way is to come to EMX, select it, right click, and you have Place Block Group. What that does, opens up the pattern in here ready to go. So you don't have to browse and open a database and make your selection. You can just right click, opens up Place Block Group. If you wanted to place striping, you could select it, right click, place pavement marking. Does the same thing, opens up your pattern, ready to go, saves you a few clicks. That's pretty much how I like to see these tools work, where it saves you picks and clicks. All right. Let me close this. Another neat thing, let's say you wanted a 3-port message. So you could go through Place Block Group, load it up, do it that way, or you could make your selection here. I'm going to hold Control, left click, then right click, Place Block Group. We have all three pop in here. So if you had a right turn only or whatnot, that way, this is an easier way to load it in a Place Block Group and go. Okay. So you see EMX is a very powerful addition, works in complement to the other traffic tools. So like pavement markings, you can go through here, you can set up, you can draw your striping, or let's say I wanted to do a 24-inch. Let's do 12-inch black stripe bridge. You could select, you can double click or make your selection and select here. So I'm going to select polyline. It's going to draw it under the influence, right? So it doesn't matter what layer your current layer is, it's going to draw it on the correct symbology. So you don't have to worry about that. And by chance, if you are using these tools in a file that wasn't created by create file, which is going to load all the FDOT standard and symbology into it, you'll get a little triangle symbol saying the right layer doesn't exist. Are you sure you want to continue? So if you see that, I mean, if you're doing a test or something like that, that's fine. But for your FDOT files, that's a warning to you're not proceeding with proper workflow. Okay. All right, so we went through Entity Manager, and I need about 2 hours to go through everything with it, but that was a good overview of how it functions. So let me close that. All right, for signal design. We don't have a signal tool in Civil 3D. We don't need one because we can do, you can use Entity Manager to place your blocks. And for mast arms, we have, let me cut on my palette. We have a FDOT traffic. It has signal heads, pedestrian signals, some lighting tables you fill in, mast arm assemblies, and some signal blocks. But what I want to focus on here briefly is the mast arm assemblies. You have single, and double, furnish and install, and down here we have existing foundation. So I'm going to insert this one. So I'm just going to left click, comes into the file. Again, you can use transparent command station offset if you wanted it at an exact station and offset. Here, I'm just going to place it. Comes in as a single, but you want to double, just left click on it. You have two grips, the move, familiar with that. You have this triangle grip. This represents that it's a dynamic block. It's going to give you many options. So, and each option has its own pay item number. So if you wanted a double 7050, as its pay item number here, changes to the double arm. Now you have some extra grips that you can edit with. One of them is the angle between arms. So you can drag it. If you want to do it manually, you can also type it in. You can see the degree that's highlighted there. You can just type it in to change it. Does a full 360 around, so you're not limited. And you can also flip it. And each one of these has built-in options. So I think there's, I don't know, 40 different pay item numbers. And it's covered with only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks for furnish and install an existing foundation. So it's covered in there and it will report. All right. So one trick I wanted to show you before we wrap up here is you can control what's listed in your properties. I know this is quick properties here. I'm having an issue with my regular properties, but it's similar. Let's say you have an alignment here and you wanted to add some extra information on it when you hover over your rolling tooltip. You want to see what's the design speed of that alignment without having to go in and edit or look at anything with the alignment. You can go to the CUI here, customize, and under rollover tooltips, make your selection here, like for an alignment. Right now, the style, name, layer is selected, but if you wanted to see the length or design speed or your design checks, you could make that selection here. You can also do it assembly, and it's a lot of different options here that you can do. So I'm gonna hit apply and hit OK. And now when I select it, I don't think this one has the speed on it, but you can see all that options you make come here, and that gives you additional information. So very easy to get to that and make those changes. All right, last thing. Oh, and notice the FDOT ribbon went away. Just easy enough. Type in FDOT, ribbon tab, and it pops back up. That'll happen when you change your workspaces here from Civil 3D to others. So don't worry. Just type it in. It comes back. Light pole manager. So we placed those light poles earlier. So what we need to do is I'm going to select one. I'm going to right click, select similar, and go to properties and go to extended data. And we have a property set that's set up just for light poles. So I'm gonna hit OK. So each one of these light poles now has all this data that needs to be entered in. So now you can open up Light Pole Manager and you can make your edits here. Oops, didn't select anything. Select everything, select the top corner, and I can renumber. Of course, in this case, it's an initial numbering. Pops that in. You can do the circuit number, everything on here. To do everything at once, you can update light pole properties. This comes up. Whatever you select here means that entry is going to be added to this table. You have a pull down with selections you can make, and then the others that you can manually type in. And if you were done, you select OK, and it would populate in here. And then you would process save light poles, and when you get everything done, create light pole report. It's going to create an Excel spreadsheet. At that point, you could link it in to your design file using the table command, which is also an FDOT ribbon for convenience. It's right there. You can link in your Excel file. So I think I covered everything I wanted to cover, all at 57 minutes. That's pretty good. I think that's it. So thank you for spending time with me this morning. I appreciate it. And this will be posted to get additional refresher for you. Matt?
Helps if I unmute myself. Thanks, Randy. And yes, we will be posting the recording as well as the few questions we have along with that recording to our website. So thank you for spending the morning with us. And does anyone have any further questions? Get a couple minutes. Okay. All right. Candy, I'll go ahead and sign off for us. Do appreciate y'all spending the morning with us. And if you have any questions, get a hold of us and we'll be posting this online. Thanks.
Thanks everybody for joining in.